MaryAnne Rojas, and I'm here with
Lorenzo Bernardez Jr.
And he's going to be telling us about what generational trauma looks like for him, how has it unraveled, and how has the healing started, and how it's looking now.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be a part of this journey with you. Generational trauma has been heavy. You know, it's been something that I'm living right now, something that I'm going through. I actually just experienced my first holiday blues, you know, where my dad passed away 5 years ago, and I feel like I've been strutting along pretty well, but like this was the first year where it was like, whoa, like, you know, I felt like that heaviness on my spirit, on my soul, on my heart. But I've noticed it a lot more since he passed, you know, because he was the compassionate parent. You know, he was the parent who you could speak to, cared about your feelings, you know, and he was just the guy. You know, he was my guy. He was my best friend. And now that my mom is my only parent, it's a lot different. You know, you notice that you can't really talk to her, can't really come to her with your feelings. So a lot of it is just like dealing with it on your own or trying to find other outlets. I noticed when I started to realize that I had to confront certain things was the biggest thing when I was single a couple years ago. I noticed my relationship with women. And I was like, man, like, you know, you keep hearing the same thing over and over, and it's just like, there has to be something that I'm doing, you know, and that I'm giving off the same pattern, and you're hearing the same story from certain people. And I mean, the first woman I ever loved was my mother. So I learned to love her in a very, like, not strange way, but in her way, like what works for her. So how I display love to women was in the only way I knew, you know. So with confrontation, I didn't do well with confrontation, you know. And that was because I had a lot of turmoil with my mom, a lot of back and forth with her. So then, like, when things get rough, I'm a runner. You know, I need distance. You know, you're too rough on me, and that's from like all the verbal abuse I got from my mom as a kid. So I would just show myself. Yeah, I escape. You know, I was just, and it's funny. Like, I love baseball, but that's where that's one of the biggest reasons why I started playing was to be out the house. Like, this gives me something to do. This gives me an outlet. I get to have fun. I have to think about everything going on in my house. So generational trauma is something that I just feel needs to be confronted. And I know I'm not the only one. And I know there's tons of people going through things that I know is weighing heavy on their spirit. You know, so I just, you know, through conversation with Zoe, my YouTube channel, is one of the topics that I felt like I just had to say something.
And so let's touch on some of those topics that we could focus on. When we're talking about generational trauma, what are some of those topics? What comes to mind for me is like how we were raised to learn to love, right? How we were raised to believe a family should look like, right? Or how a family should behave, right? What are some other topics? The way we think about money, right? How we use money, how we perceive money, how we receive money, and even how we give money is one of those behaviors in our generational trauma that could really impact long term and influence our daily lives. So what are some other topics?
I mean, money is a big thing, because money to the generation that are from our parents and that older generation, money equates success. And for us, money's important, but like money, we're making money. You and I make money.
We make money,
right?
We make money.
But it's just like, that's not the only thing that like drives me to be successful. Because to me, if I feel happy and I feel good about myself, I feel like that's success. I feel like I put myself in a position to feel good about myself. So you shifted.
You went from money to success.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a shift.
There was a shift, you know. So then I started to see, like, you know, I may not be rich monetarily, but I feel like I'm rich on life. You know, I feel like all the experiences, the places I've been, the cultures I've been able to embrace, and also like just to be totally outside of my comfort zone.
Word.
I felt like that made me rich. You know, but if you ask my mother, she'd be like, yo, you broke, B. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got nothing. Like,
you ain't do shit.
You ain't shit. Like, so it's like, you play professional baseball, what you got to show for it? And what? And I'm like, yo, I won a championship. Like, you know what I'm saying? I did that, you know. In the league, 8,000 miles away in Austria, a kid from the Bronx. So I'm like, you know what? And you mentioned this when we were sort of kind of going back and forth before we started filming. You can't take that from me. I did that.
Yes, I earned this, I deserve this, and you won't take that away from me, right? It's this box we put ourselves in, right? So let's go back. There was a shift. We went from like that money story that we're raised in, right? That's part of our generational trauma. And I heard in your language that you shifted. You took it from money to success. For me, it went from money to like success, wealth, abundance, prosperity. Like my language completely shifted my world. It was a whole paradigm, right? So success looked for you like, what was it? You were playing baseball. You were feeling good. You were feeling changes where in your life?
Success looked for me in just changing my mentality and what I chose to put out to the world. So once I found that purpose, it was like the youth is where I thrive.
Word.
Like I'm a darn good coach. I'm very good with the youth. I'm very relatable. I'm very thankful to God for all the spaces He's put me in.
Word.
And where He's allowed me to thrive. And that makes me so much more relatable because I can relate to people from all backgrounds. The average privileged person went to boarding school, so did I. And the average person's been traveled to Europe or lived in DC or interned or been certain places where we have sort of like we share commonalities.
Right.
So that allows just to break the ice. Like hey, like this and that and certain places that people have gone and the Hamptons. I lived there for a summer. I never thought I'd do that, but I was blessed with the opportunity to do that. So for me, it was just being 20 and looking in the mirror and being like, I don't even recognize this person. So for me, the biggest thing that I could do is put God first and shift my energy. And once I started to shift my energy and sort of kind of just take everything in a positive, like just take the positive, like Lawrence says, he says, take the positive out of every negative. And then you start to notice like the little negative things that are normal. But when you're not conscious to it, it just seems like this is just the way I'm acting. Like this is just the way it is.
So there's an awareness, there's a layer of awareness.
So there's a layer of awareness. So then like when it comes back to general trauma, it's just like when it comes back to money or it comes back to the way we were raised, that's just not normal. Like that's when you start to realize as you get older. I'm 27 now, and I'm starting to see like it was the way I was raised, and I know they did their best they could, but it's like it wasn't. A child shouldn't hear those certain things.
And this is something that I'm battling lately, is right. Like so, I'm taking notice in my own family the people who are getting older. Right? Not just by looking at them and interacting with them, but also by the years in my life. Every year is one more year to the life of a person that I love, right? So I'm thinking about people like my grandmother, who could be leaving any year now. And every day she thinks of things that she wants, that she doesn't feel she amounted to or felt successful in or ever feel like she'll even be there before death, right? And I'm thinking of ways like, okay, what could I do to make that happen for her? And at the same time, there's not much. It's not my story. It's not my story, right? However, she was there for me. So it's a battle in my everyday life, right? Trying to please the people that I love, trying to break those cycles within their minds, while at the same time trying to break the cycles in my minds, right? So thinking about which story takes priority, or how to integrate them. How they heal one another. How do we heal those stories that have hurt us so we can heal and move on,
There's certain things that like were said from frustration and anger that our family members may not even remember saying. But we surely do.
Yes.
So it's like I can't even begin to like if I told my mom half the things she said, she wouldn't remember it. So the way I see it now, as I'm like, still I've healed a lot, but I'm still healing. I feel like it's an ongoing process.
It's an ongoing process.
So I feel like where she was in her life, like what was she going through that made her say that?
Yes.
like
you close your eyes and
yeah.
you literally think about it. Like, where were they? How were they feeling? What were they wearing? Who were they talking to? Like,
yeah, like so something like so I'm 9-10 years old at the time, and I'm like, and it's crazy. I just had a conversation with my sister, you know, and through that we were talking about it, and then I was just like, that was what I got of it. Like, what was she going through that made her feel that? What was my mom going through that made her feel that way? Like, why would you feel to say that? And then, as you know, I put myself, and this is where I say the holiday blues. It puts you back in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You have that flashback. You feel 9 years old again, and you know, you talk about, you know, my sister. You know, she deals with a little bit of anxiety sometimes. But then, like, you know, when you have your mom saying, like, you know, one day, you know, I'm gonna leave and never come back.
Yeah.
You know, you think, like, you look at
when
that.
When I die,
yeah,
you'll remember this.
And it's like, yo, like, what 10-year-old child needs to remember some shit like that? You know what I'm saying? Oh, when I die, you're gonna miss me. You're gonna see the real. And it's like, yo, like, I'm not trying to think about 10 years old, thinking about life with
just
no mother.
teach me the lesson, but don't make me feel bad.
Yeah, you don't have to belittle me or break me down. You know, and I feel like that's why, like, as a role as a coach and as a mentor, I choose to empower children.
Word.
You know, because I know, like, that's why I don't talk to the kids aggressively ever. Only, and I call it positive aggressive, because I may have a strong tone, but nothing bad is coming out of my mouth. So
it's assertive.
It's just assertive. It's firm. So that's all it is. I'm not looking to break you down, and I already know, like, not carrying what I went through into them, but I know, like, how it is, you know, to have parents who are under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of stress, who speak to them very aggressively, very positively, you know, not positively, negatively, breaking them down, and it doesn't help, you know.
It didn't work. It did not work for me. It pushed me.
Yeah.
Yo, Lorenzo, it pushed me so far. I was waiting to the day I could disappear. It wasn't even leave. It was disappear, right? Mm-hmm. And it became a chain reaction, because then I went off to college. Finally, I'm at a place where I can begin to...
Where'd you go to school?
So I went to Oni.
Okay.
Oneonta State, up in Oneonta, New York. Beautiful campus, beautiful town. Had many problems, many problems. However, we were doing work. We were doing work out there, right? So I was seeing this manifest in a lot of my relationships. College, those years were so critical to how I changed my life, the way I thought, right? Even the books that I was reading changed. Distance became not problematic, but it became an intentional solitude, right? It was like, all right, I know that I'm struggling with this. I know that I have this. I know that I need to work on this. I need to be alone for a second. However, love grew for me during those years, right? My perception of loving and how to love changed, right? And something that I was struggling with was that I was still looking at men who were still defining, like, the life that I had before, right? So for instance, here's another piece of generational trauma, like, taking it back, more specific to young women, right? Young Afro-Latinas, like, we're out here and we're being told every day by our mothers, like, that's what men are like. That's what men are gonna be. That's exactly what a man will do, because he's a man, right? Whether it's cheating, verbal abuse, whether not being present, right? Or whether it's, like, pulling them, right, from even being themselves. Right? So that's something I never heard in my households. It's like the positive stories of the men in my life. Yes, we all have done crazy, negative, traumatic ones, but where are the ones where they succeeded?
Exactly.
Where are the ones they succeeded? Because those are the ones that would have really helped me identify the men who can love me the way we can be one. Right? And not still fall into these boxes of the stories that people want us to live, right? But they're not ours, right? So that's a piece of generational trauma that I struggle with every single day. Even when I talk to other women, the topic of love, like how we think of love, how we still think that love has to do with an expectation.
I feel like love is such a beautiful thing, you know, that we get to share with people. And I feel like it's something that everyone deserves. You know, and then we're all seeking, but I want everyone to love each other in a healthy way, in a way that's conducive to both parties, in a way where you're uplifting one another. And that's where, like, you talk about, like, today's society, you know, we talk about trying to cover every single generation the best we can. But, like, I feel like, and I have a topic of an episode about relationships, and we spoke about that. But it's like people are just trying to come to the table empty-handed, you know, like
expecting you to do all the work.
Do all the work, you know, nothing to give, nothing to uplift, nothing to how am I gonna make MaryAnne Rojas the best version of herself, you know?
Yes.
And it's just like I feel like I want to encourage everyone to try to kind of be in that space.
Word.
And you talk about not promoting the positive in people, but only the negative. And it's just like, trust me, there have been many good men out there and many good women. And that's where, you know, we spoke about earlier about we're going to strike nerves.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a conversation that it's going to rub some people the wrong way. And we talk about the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, the not being present, all the things that many of us saw growing up in our household, you know. So it's like a lot of us emulate the relationship our parents had, or aunts and uncles, or whoever we grew up with, you know. So it becomes the same cycle of, well, I saw my mother, you know, as a woman, I saw my mother, you know, in an abusive relationship with men, and you know, her door was always open. You know, he always came back. So it's like now I find myself in the same like accepting the same thing, because that's what I think love is.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what I was shown.
Yeah.
But then, all right, as a man, all right, my father wasn't there. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. I didn't become this. He ain't shit. I hate him. And then you become the same deadbeat. So it's like unconsciously you became everything you say. Everything you fought so hard not to become. Boom, that's you, Papa.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy, you know. So it's
so
like.
You think there's fear? Is there fear what's the emotion underlying that action, that behavior, that passed on behavior?
I think it's fear, but also exposure to something else. Because when you see different, you hear different, you do different. You know, so it's like trying to be also educating yourself, trying to become more conscious. You know, and maybe finding or seeking another, you know, form of like a role model or a mentor, or seeking things in other places. You know,
my life changed with role models.
Yeah, you know, and so and I mean that's what got me where I am today. You know, those outside factors, like those external people that were there for me, like, you know, coaches and teachers and friends,
profound, you know, like very specific, symbolic friends that just said the right things at the right time.
The right things, right time. They did wonders for me. And when you start to hear certain things, it starts to, because now this is a narrative, you know what I'm saying? And now that we know all of this stuff, it's like controlling the narrative, you know, as much as you can, you know? So for me, it's like, all right, I want to put myself in the position to be that person for someone else. Like, so I have a mentor, you know, Coach Bill, who helped me go to boarding school and told me all of these things that I never really heard. Like my parents never told me, like, you're smart, you're capable, you can do all these uplifting words that like went and did wonders for me when that man came into my life. So for me, I feel indebted to the world. Like, yo, like here I am, you know, living in Vienna. Like, I want to empower some kid to be in that position also, you know. And I feel like as people of color, we have to think of that more, of how we're gonna uplift each other and not shit on each other. Because I feel like, I mean, comparing is a whole different conversation. But like uplifting one another, it's so easy to say, man, fuck him, man. Or it's harder to say, I'm proud of him. But that's where you choose to put your energy, and people unconsciously, you don't know that negativity that you're spewing towards that person. You know, the negative energy, the things that you're manifesting are it's not by accident that you're jogging in place and your life ain't going nowhere.
It's easier to say things like, I told you so, instead of saying, yo, let me help you change this. I've seen this work. This changed my life. Let's try this. It's harder to do that, right? So thinking about, I like what you said about taking control of the narrative, right? So taking it back to generational trauma, the connections with perceptions such as love, right? What we were raised in, what we're learning, and how we're changing and responding to our new paradigms of love, right? In connection with what you just said, controlling the story, right? Thinking about our families, right? And this is something that I'm going through, thinking of ways how I have changed that has allowed me to make the love that I have for my family accessible to them, right? Without any negativity. Like, how has that been unraveling for me? And how am I able to still take control of my story and say, I want to be present, I want to be balanced, I want to be here physically, spiritually, mentally, I want to be here holistically for all of you, and at the same time, I have to be myself.
Yeah.
While all at the same time trying to fit a box, right? Because my family expects me to get married, they expect me to have kids, they expect me to have a house with a white picket fence, at least 2 cars, you know? And what I'm really thinking about is, I want to impact lives.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about the change that's going to be coming even after me. I want children, maybe not the same way they had them.
Yeah.
I want a beautiful love life, maybe not the same way they had them, because let me tell you, the love lives that I have seen, I should not be believing in love.
Yeah.
And that hurts.
And
that hurts.
That's deep.
That hurts, because that's the extra work I had to do. The extra work that I had to live with other men trying to love me or me loving them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the unspoken work of the process of healing.
Mm-hmm.
That can feel so heavy and take over, suffocate you. And let me tell you, there's been times, years, I've gone years without speaking my truth. Silence. Because I know that whatever comes out, it's not what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
And the people who I want them to hear them are not around.
Yeah.
Because that silence had to close doors on what I really wanted.
Yeah.
You know, so how do we take control of our story? Nurture the boundaries between the people we love and who love us, even though we love differently, while still not putting ourselves in the stories of others that we don't need to be in, and in the box of society.
Yeah, it's like not trying to compromise yourself and stay true to yourself.
And heal.
And that's the most important thing. The thing is, this topic is not sexy.
Yeah.
It's not something that, like,
it ain't cute.
It ain't cute, but it's something that is so necessary, where it's a lot of things that we can't unhear, we can't unsee, we can't unfeel.
Word.
But it's just like we have to, in order to become because this is what I started to realize. In order to become the best version of myself, I gotta confront.
Yes.
You know, I have to look at it for what it is and move on. Okay. You know, and certain things, like, you just gonna have to hold that. You know.
How do we hold it? Let's get to the nitty gritty. This is something that I don't have an answer to. I'm hoping your words can really share some solutions combined with mine, maybe. But, like, how do we move on? How do we move on from what we've held that is connected to our generational trauma, because it's connected to the way we think, and we're blocked and we want to change it so we can move on? Like, how do we do that? Is it awareness? What kind of awareness do we need?
There's certain things, like, all right, so say my mom, there's certain things that we're going to be able to talk about and certain things we aren't. So with the things that we aren't, I just realize that it doesn't bring me any good. It doesn't make me feel good. It drains my energy. Yeah. And it's not good for me. So I just have to let that go. You know, so within due time, I'm just gonna rid myself of it, because it doesn't bring anything good to me. You know, and certain things, her and I, she's gonna be open to, and we're gonna have to speak about, and we have spoken about. Yeah. We recently got into it over a difference of opinions, but, you know, I had to stand my ground on that. Yeah. You know, and let her know, like, you know, you're wrong. You know. And that's just the fact of the matter. What it is, like, you know, there's right and there's wrong, and in this instance you're wrong, and I know that for her, you know, like her success it revolves around survival, making sure the bills are paid, making sure she can go to her 6 weeks to Honduras.
See,
and
that's
all that
important.
stuff. And
That's important.
yeah, so that's where her success is. And also, you know, being an immigrant woman, you know, success rolls around, you know, having an office and having a shirt and tie and all of that. But it's just like for me, you know, you could wear a shirt and tie and be a clerk. You know,
Yeah.
so like you could be a you know, nothing.
Or
like,
you could be wearing a shirt and tie because you like it.
Yeah, that could just be your look. You know what I'm saying? So it could you know, I feel like what attire is means nothing. It's all about what's in here, what comes out.
Right.
You know, it could be anybody. So like you could get a strong word from anyone. You know, that shirt and tie guy may be zero personality, nothing. You don't bring nothing good to the world, and that's what you were saying earlier. Like for me, it's about using my resources and this voice God gave me to put something out to the world. And for my mother, it's just like, well, you no crees gemelo, worry about yourself. You know, you nobody gemelo, you know, worry about yourself. And for me, it's like that's not it, because everything good, like all these people that you ask for, that they good for your son. Right? I'm trying to be that person for somebody else. You gotta understand. You gotta see that. Oh, she asked me, where's Coach Bill? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be Coach Bill. But if you took the time to know your son, you'd see like, wow, like he's done so good. Like your son has been a keynote speaker. My mother, you know what a keynote speaker is. I have to explain it to her.
Half my family don't even know I got poetry published, dude. Like I feel you. It's,
you know, so it's like you know, you seeing me as like, you know, regular smuggler, but it's like, you know, it's crazy. It's two things. Like the way people see my mom, I don't, and the way people see me, my mother doesn't. So it's like, how do we mend those relationships? How do we mend these bonds? And you know, how do we move forward? And then as a people, you know, as a mass, it's like, Instagram is a liar. Social media, and it's crazy because, like we spoke about earlier, the backlash that I've gotten on certain things. That's like, damn, I ain't saying nothing bad to nobody. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to create awareness and put something else out there. I'm using
the streams that people are looking at to create an awareness.
A lot of people, and then you know, you see kids. Even on social media, you see a lot of people hurting. You know, a lot of people, you can see by the things that they post, the things that they put out there, the energy they put out there. It could be a cry out for help. You never know where that little pick-me-up is going to come from. You know what I'm saying? It could be on social media. It could be that little post that said, like, you know, if you haven't heard this lately, I'm proud of you, or I love you, or, you know, you're beautiful, or you're capable. And it's just certain things that I want to manifest to the world that I feel everybody deserves to feel good about themselves.
I've been feeling that a lot lately, Lorenzo. I've always been a reader. I've always been a writer. I'm a poet first. Ever since I was a child. I accumulated 12 journals of poetry by the time I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Right? By the time I hit 12, I had 14. They were taken from me, thrown into the garbage, and told girls don't keep secrets. So I lost so much work.
Wow.
So after that, I decided to live in silence. I kept all these stories inside of me, right? But I got used to that. I believed that stories needed what came from inside, lived from inside, so they stayed inside, right? However, recently, during my paradigm shifts, I've been taking control of my story. I've been building the boundaries and rebuilding love, like just rebuilding love, right, through gratitude. Like I'm truly feeling this gratitude stage in my life. Like I'm learning what it's feeling, like how it's manifesting in the body, and a part of that is manifested in listening to people's stories. I have been so interested in the stories that people have inside, because I have seen what it does when I have pulled mine out. I feel lighter. I feel more beautiful.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I've been, like 2019 has helped me feel more beautiful than like the last maybe 8 years of my life. And I'm sure there's people out there, like you said, there's people who see you the way you don't see yourself. Like, I'm sure there's people out there who see me the way I don't see myself, right?
Yeah.
But those are the stories they have of us.
Yeah.
That they believe they have of us, right? But when we don't share our story, we become an accessory to those who think know our story.
Yep. Yep.
Right? So at what point do we say to the people we love, thank you, and this is not what I need? And in the end, if I'm happy, things are going to be okay.
I think with what you hear and what you see being what you become, you know, a lot of who a person is starts at home, you know, and that's why, like, say, I don't know, you could go to school ashy, you know, as a kid, and that could be a reflection of your parent, like, you know, he doesn't get taken care, he or she doesn't get taken care of, or whatever. So, but they don't also know, like, the other things, the other side of things, that you take from home, and you bring with you, you carry with you outside, you know, behavior, mannerism, all of those things, and certain things that we see from our family that just aren't right. Like, my mother is one of 6, right? And from just my mom, I'm just one of 3. But like with my dad, he had other kids. It's like 6 of us, right? But just keeping on my mother's children, one of 3, right? We all don't get along. Like, me and my sister get along. Me and my brother, we're a work in progress. We're gonna get there someday. She's one of 6, and none of them get along. I think like 2 of them do, and like other 2 have relationships. So it's just like it's scattered. So it's just like
energy.
My mom isn't conscious to notice that, like, you didn't learn conflict resolution and how to deal with other people and not agreeing, and y'all don't get along. And look at your kid, we don't get along. So it's the same cycle. You know what I'm saying? That I'm trying to break. I'm like, yo, this is not cool. Like, there's no way that I see how y'all get down, and y'all not noticing that the family is going down the same slippery slope. You know, so who's gonna catch?
We're just helping each other do the same thing over again. Here,
Over
let me
again.
help you. Here, say this.
Over
You'll
again.
find yourself,
And it's just like, okay, you know, we went from, and my immediate family is not that big, but like, you know, obviously we don't have tons of aunts, cousins, whatever. But my whole thing is just like, no one knows how to not agree to disagree, but okay, that's how you feel, move on. It doesn't always have to be like, all right, you know, see you in 10
the
years.
last word, everybody wants
Yeah,
last.
see you in.
Okay, so let's talk about, so what we're talking about, I'm listening to a lot of what's going on in our daily lives, right? In this physical world, how we interact with our family members, even our children, our siblings, right? I'm part of a very large family. We're all so spread out. We were all adopted. We went through the system. I was ward of the state, all of it, right? What is it in that energetic connection between the people that we love that keep us attached, that continues to rebuild and nurture and feed and fuel and love this cycle of what feels like we're not doing anything. I'm just doing the same thing over and over, right? Because it took me a really long time, for instance, to think about that. The same things I'm doing were the same things I was taught to do. And if I don't change it, like, I might not ever talk to my mom again.
Yeah.
She might die, and I might never talk to her. Like, whose job is it? Whose job is it to break it, the cycle?
I feel like it's our generation.
Okay.
And just because, since we have different values, different morals, we value happiness. We value feeling good. We value confidence. We value energy. The energy we put out to the world, the energy we receive, what we're trying to be around also. Yeah. So it's like, that's big too. Like, I'm not trying to be around people with bad energy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? If I had a choice, I'd never be around it. But, you know, it's just like you can't control everyone you're around at all times. But I try to facilitate it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we're just more conscious of these things. Where for them, that shit is normal. It's normal to be spoken to that way. It's normal to, like, you messed up, and I'm gonna break you down to the bit, to your core.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like being in, it's almost like the jail system. It don't help.
Because then we build a wall again.
Yeah, you build a wall
again.
So
Personal wall again with that person.
It's not trying to reform you. It's trying to, you know, just break you down to a number, and that's it. So you just feel inadequate. You know what I'm saying? You've been told you're inadequate your whole life. Which
is the energy of the institution, the systemic institution.
So then I'm supposed to grow up this confident, adequate person. I've never been told that. You know? Yeah. I've been told the same thing.
You're going to be just like your mom, a little hoe. You're not going to do anything.
You know, no seed, all those things. Yeah. You know, and it's like, what good does that do? You know
Look at you, you're living the same life we did already. That's the type of shit people say. Mm-hmm. Look at you. What changed?
And it does no good. They don't understand that that's not helping empower your child. Yeah. You know, and I feel like my mom and a lot of parents, if they were conscious, I mean, let me say this. It boils down to giving a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let me not dance too much on this. It boils down to giving a fuck.
You gotta give a fuck.
You
have to have the audacity to give a fuck. You have to be willing to step into that hard risk of giving a fuck. Yeah. Because that's what it is.
So my mama don't. You know what I'm saying? So you know, so it's like, you know, for her, you know, telling me I'm not successful, I'm not educated, you know, who am I? All of those things. It's like, damn, that's how you feel, you know. But it's like, why did she think this of me? And that was my first question. So I asked another question. What is it that I like to do? She couldn't tell me. You know? Wow. So I'm like, you know, I said, you know, I really have a big passion of working with kids. She said, oh, you do? So I'm like, damn, you really been living under a rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, where have you been? That's what I'm saying about being, we train ourselves and put our mind to be conscious of certain things. Like, I know what you're into. I know what Lawrence is into. I know what Omar's into. So I become conscious to see, like, all right, like, what is it that they're into and how can I help them achieve something? Yeah. But that for them is just like, well, how does that benefit me? You know? And that's what it's all about. It's a very self-preservation world that they come from. And we come from, like, how can we help each other? Like, you and I use our platforms to merge and make something bigger and create even more awareness. And for them, it's just like, well, how much you made off that? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like, that's not the point. That I'm not talking about that form of abundance. I'm not talking about a physical form of abundance. I'm talking about an abundance that comes from within. A personal, a place of sanctuary, a place that those who love you should be able to see the light. Absolutely. They should be able to see the light shown, like they love you. Like these are lenses of love that are around us at all times. We just want, you have to give a fuck. You have to give a fuck to access them. Yeah. Like, you really do. Like, we can't be doing all the work. Mm-hmm. I've been in relationships where I've had to ask the person, like, do you love me?
Everyone has a different love language. Yes. And trying to understand one another and how you express it, how you give it, through actions, through words. And a person may feel it, just doesn't have a... It's hard to, and this is what I learned from my mom. It's hard to give something you never got. You know. So for her, that's why, that's part of the healing. Also, do your homework on who you're dealing with. Yeah. So I go pick my grandma's brain and talk to my aunts, you know, and then, you know, you sort of kind of gather all this information. You start to have more empathy for people. And that helps you because, like, honestly, some of the people just don't know any better. Yeah. You know, their education only goes so far, and then it just becomes ignorance because they don't choose to know, or they don't choose to educate themselves any further. Yeah. They live in a world where they don't really have to conform so much. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know, still send money orders when you can pay your bills online. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just like the world still gives you that option. So it's like, I'm good. Yeah. And then, so you get to stay in your little bubble, in your little world where you're the ruler, you make the rules, everybody fuck off, you know, kids included.
Yeah.
And then we're just supposed to be these normal people. And then you see kids getting tattoos on their faces, doing drugs, you know, having anxiety, depression. All that shit stems from somewhere. And it's like it's getting younger and younger. With the platforms that we have, which is a gift and a curse, one thing, if you really conscious and pay attention, the kids crying out for help are younger and younger, and you seeing it. They're able to identify and it's like, yo, this is how I feel. So parents, you know, may not be conscious enough to see these things. Like, why does my son feel this way? You know, or why does he feel like he wants to take his life?
How am I partaking in my child's feeling this way? So this is something really particular that I always think about. I've seen marriages that work. I'm like, wow, like there is a flow here. There is an energetic flow that grounds their physical world. Like they, you know, they chose to be there. And then I've also seen and lived with families where there is no flow.
Yeah.
And those were the places where my growth stopped.
Yeah.
Like my growth, if I was a plant, I died.
Yeah.
I died, and I was waiting for some miracle, somebody to come pick up the pot and be like, let's just put it outside and pray for some rain.
Yeah.
Like they threw me out in the garbage, let's pray for some rain. And that pot, all of a sudden, little seed is sprouting, and somebody takes the pot and takes it to a different home. Like that was me, right? So I got, and I went through many different shelters. I've lived in many different homes. I went to 17 different schools. Every single year I was the new girl. I went to school with Omar just once. 1 year.
Wow.
1 year. However, that close. Every year I met at least one person already as an adolescent who like really made an impact in my life, right? I got used to the constant mobility that came from oppression, which is different, right? Right? Oppressive immobility that you see a lot in like communities of color. We can't move. We could only go to a specific location because that's all we could afford, right? Like the restrictions around that. But like that takes hold on your body. It takes hold on the way you think, right? So this constant traveling, this constant idea that I'm not gonna find that stability. And then when I had it, all that stability just looked like crap.
Yeah.
It looked like crap. And that was when I was like, I'm living a life by myself. Like, I gotta build something alone.
You ever feel like when you started, you ever feel like there's still people who see you as old MaryAnne and don't really like they don't really get with the towns of the new MaryAnne? And I feel like it's frustrating because it's just like I feel like those are people that try to box you in and not like, you know, see you as you are today. Like, you know, and it's like that can hinder your growth in some way, shape, or form, you know. And those are the people you sort of kind of not isolate yourself from, but you know, it's either you're gonna try to understand like where I am in my life, or you're just gonna have to chuck the deuces, you know.
Yeah. Something that I've been thinking about as an artist, as a writer, as a poet, as a person who loves love and anything that comes and builds and cultivates and nurtures it, right? Wherever you can find love, right? So I'm thinking about creativity. How can we nurture as people living in a society, going through this generational trauma, trying to heal, going through the work, doing the process, going through the ups and downs, right? All this flow. How do we nurture our creativity, right? Because for me, creativity has helped me survive. Like if I ever feel like you are threatening my creativity, there's a problem. Like there's a problem. If I stop picking up a pen, there's a problem. Like how do we nurture our creativity?
You gotta be around more creative people. You know, be around like-minded people. You know, people who
you gotta build a life around.
Bring something to the table. Who are gonna spark. You know, like I got friends from boarding school. I got friends from the hood. I got childhood friends. So I got friends. Thank through the grace of God and, like you said, through gratitude. I'm very grateful that they all, you know, give me something different. You know, my boy from Cali, he's a big stocks financial guy. So he sends me like, you know, these articles, and so it's cool that I get to read these things. You know, money management and all of these things. So he brings that to me, and then I may talk sports with one friend, or talk this, or gentrification with this person. It's just people who support your creative, and I think that's where it starts first. People also supporting who you are, what you do, how you think, and trying to enhance that. So it's just like, send me an article about the youth. Yo, my friend saw this job at MLB, or yo, I saw a thing. That's to me is the kind of world I'm trying to live in, where we're all trying to build together and trying to push each other and support each other. So it's having a supportive cast that supports your creative, and anybody who hinders that has to go. Like, social media for me used to be, if we could go back 10 years, you'd be like, yo, what is this kid talking about?
I didn't even use it that much, yo.
Yeah, it was honestly.
For me, I didn't even use it.
It's almost embarrassing to talk about, but it was bitch this, hoe that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was just raunchy. It was just like
part of a different mindset.
Those were the times I was in. So it's like, you post your meals, you post where you at, you post the new sneakers you bought. You just in those times. And then, when I started to make that shift and transformation, like, it started to be like, you know what? I don't give a shit about any of that stuff.
Word.
And then I started to use my platform, and people started to reach out to me like, yo, bro.
Yo,
bro, reading your status just got me through my whole semester of college.
Yes.
And then my own sister, who shout out my sister Jennifer, she apologized to me. She's like, cause she used to make fun of me. She used to call me Reverend. He had a show. He used to sit in the bathtub and tweet at the end of the show.
I saw it. I used to see it.
Yeah, so it's like, she thought that this was all like a fluke, like it was all a hoax. Like, he's not real about it. But then throughout my own journey, I was like, you know what? You gotta walk the talk. So that you go through that when you transformation, it's easier to dish it out and say all these positive things that sound good, and you spell check it, make sure it rhyme and reason and all that stuff. But then you actually have to live it. Mm-hmm. And then once you live in it, now that's another step of the journey that you have to get through. Cause now it's people seeing you like, wait, hold on, you're not coming out, you're not cheating with us tonight? Like, we're not out? Like, nah, I'm not with that. Yo, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and then you trying to take another space in your life, and then, the universe just cuts people out. Cause it's like, bro, you really not trying to get where I'm trying to go with my life, and you're just trying to leave me as this, young cheating asshole. And I'm trying to be a leader in my community. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be a face for young black men, for young Afro-Latino men,
And does everybody have time to do that still? Because I still meet people who say, I don't have time for that anymore. I got kids. I'm trying, is there time to always be a leader?
We all get 24. We all get 24. So we all get 24 hours a day. It's all how you choose to use them. It's all about what you care about, and what you choose to put your energy into. And that's what I'm saying. I used to put my energy into speaking negatively of women and hoe this and bitches this and bitches be like and hoes be like. And it's crazy. Shout out my friend Allie too. My friend Allie from boarding school, she reached out to me. She's like, yo, I'm really disappointed. And like, this is not you. And I didn't get it at the time. And we had a conversation like 2 years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, where I was like, I apologized to her, and I also thanked her, because she's like, yo, I know your heart. And I don't understand. Like, it's like crazy to see how you speak of women and all of these things. And it's just like, damn, no one said anything to me but her. So everybody was funny and all that stuff. But then when you move past that, and now I'm on this 7-year journey now, 27, of trying to do better, trying to help my community. And now you still have people who still like, well, you post too much on social media. Unfollow me. Like, you know what I'm saying? For real. Like,
if it bothers you that much.
Hit it. Yeah. Hit it. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, you don't, listen, if you don't apply, let it fly. Let it fly. Like, come on. So, it's like, fam, like, you still on this social media shit? Yo, that shit get on my, MaryAnne. Yo, it grinds my gears. Cause it's
where's
like,
your intention? Ask me, instead of telling me that, ask me, where's my intention? What am I trying to do? Hey, what are you trying to change? Yo, talk to me about what you're doing in your life right now. Like, right?
And it doesn't, just because that's not where you are in your life, you don't got to see me as less than or like or like I bother you.
They're trying
it's
to
like,
put their story to yours.
And it's like, nah, like you can keep that.
Keep
you know
it.
What I'm saying?
Keep
you
it.
keep
Word,
that.
word.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want it. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
I don't want it because it don't bring me nothing no good. It's just like, yo, you like that's not what you into. You're not into uplifting other people. You're not. All right, cool. But it's just like
cool.
If you don't like my sister, you know, I from time to time, you know, I post like a good deed that I did, right?
Yeah.
But if you know me, I do a good deed every day.
Word.
I carry extra.
Word.
I carry
Yes.
extra bottles of water.
Yes.
Give away food. I try to do
text somebody
positive.
who you know could really use
Right, on
something.
time, like, yo, bro.
Every single day I at least text somebody who I know are calling for some words. And I get a thank you. Yo, the power of thank you. The power of thank you have brought people back into my life that I've needed to pay attention to. Have taken people out of my life that I've needed to just, we need some time. Removal. It has changed my thinking. It has changed the way I feel about myself. It has changed my energy. Vitality, brand new world. I feel expansion coming from my heart. It's a flutter. It's a little starfish chilling.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how it feels, self-love. From gratitude, my self-love has risen.
Yeah.
Like that's the cycle I want to be in.
Yeah.
Abundance, self-love, right? Creativity.
You made that choice,
Gratitude.
though. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You chose you and you made that choice. And that's what people who say don't have that time, they haven't made that choice.
And I want to say this too. When I made that choice, I didn't leave anything behind, Lorenzo.
Yeah.
There was a big perception. There is a big perception that when you choose you, it's a huge sacrifice and everybody around you is hurt. But when you choose you, I've learned that when I've chosen me every single time, everything that has mattered has fallen right back into place.
Yeah. It's almost like you...
Go. We'll just start ending.
So, my whole thing is, I was in a place where I would cook food, like I would overcook food, pack it up, put a water, napkin, plastic fork in it, and I'd be like, yo, I hope I run into somebody. And sure enough, I always did. And if I did it on my way to work, on my way back from work. When I was at work, working in Harlem, I was working on 121st and Park, right by 125th. You know 125th?
Yeah.
Crazy over there.
I used to live out there.
Tons of homeless people.
Yeah.
I never threw out my lunch. I put it in the fridge, or leave it on my desk, heat it up, boom. First homeless person I saw.
Yeah.
I do that every day. That's the thing. I don't talk about it every day, but if you know me and I see you, we're going to talk about it, and it's just to inspire other people to do the same.
We're changing
Yeah.
ways of daily living. We're doing it.
So all I'm doing is trying to inspire the people around me to do better, or to do more. Better it can be a little confrontational because like, oh well,
To do
but
more, like
just
that.
to do more. I'm trying to get. We can all do a little more. Like they say in Spanish, "Que te cuesta?" You know what I'm saying? That pizza was free.
Yeah.
All it cost you was a little, holding it all day, but you knew you had the intent and that it was gonna help somebody.
I thought it. Somebody felt it. It was given. I knew exactly where it was going.
And there it was.
And there it was.
And there it was.
And there it was.
So those are such important things that it's like, let's do more. Where generationally, family-wise, it's like self-preservation, worry about yourself. But it's just like the world I'm trying to live in, I don't want to just worry about myself. I'm going to worry about myself naturally. Everyone does that. Like, when you put MaryAnne, Rosa on the papers, that's it. You don't put MaryAnne of the people, third floor, second floor, everybody. It's just you. So we do that naturally already. But for me, how giving starts from, receiving starts from receiving starts from giving starts from receiving. One of those.
It's a cycle of gratitude.
It's a cycle. So like all that receiving starts from giving.
What you
know what I'm saying?
Right?
Absolutely.
Don't expect.
We go to bars and spend 10 cash on a beer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You telling me that $2 pizza is gonna hurt? All it took was, yo, can I get an extra hot? It's $1 slice. Can I get an extra hot 2 slices and give it to the poor man sitting in front? That didn't cost me nothing. I'll be with my girl and I'm like, yo, hold on, let me run in here. Get this, whatever. I could have got a tip that day, so I'm like, I bet. Let me. It's winter time. It's crazy. I couldn't imagine sleeping on the floor. I couldn't imagine sleeping at a train station. And it's just like the world lacks empathy. You know, for one another.
We need to rebuild that, and we need to get there. We need to get there.
We're gonna get there, but no one's invincible.
That changing of paradigm.
No one is invincible. That could be any of us.
Some people think they are, but that will come with time.
Life humbles everybody.
Everybody gets a little humbled, right?
You know, so hey, we appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you.
Plenty of more topics.
So many thank yous.
Reach out to us for what you guys want to talk about. This is just a reflection of years and years of things we've been going through. But 2020 is the start of a new decade. You know, so let's map out the next 10 years. Let's map out what we want things to look like for us, you know, and control
and
the
with
narrative.
With love and
control the narrative.
Mucho thank you. Say thank you 3 times after everything.
Absolutely.
Love you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.